Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I'm Janine Liston, your hostess. This show is all about helping you build a stronger, more profitable, sustainably profitable business through better pricing practices and better pricing strategies. Welcome, everyone. And of course, welcome to today's guest, Heidi Gruss. Hi, Heidi.
Hey.
We're so excited to have you here with us today. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get started with a few rapid fire questions.
Okay, bring them on.
All right, here we go. So first of all, where are you joining us from today, Heidi?
I am in the very small state in the southeastern corner of Connecticut.
I used to live there. I think we talked about that recently.
Yeah, I think we did.
And what would you call, or what do people tell you is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower. So, people definitely comment about how organized I am. How I get so much done in a day. I think they're pretty impressed by that. Probably similar to a lot of your listeners, I'm not just a business owner, not just a psychotherapist. I'm a mom. I've got 3, active kids. So I would say it's probably around my productivity and efficiency.
Okay. Super. Yeah. Excellent. We'll call you productive woman, productive lady. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Captain Productivity. Yeah. Cool. What's one interesting thing that people don't know about you?
So I would say I actually, and I was contemplating on answering the superpower question with this too. Mm-hmm. But I actually think people don't realize this is that I almost look forward to having difficult conversations with people. And I know that sounds almost bizarre, but what I've realized is that so often those difficult conversations, they just give us so much relief and freedom. And it's like, so, we stay locked up, like afraid, apprehensive, so maybe even scared of what's going to come from the conversation. And I've released all of that and have found, so much freedom in being able to just initiate those conversations and look at it as an opportunity to learn. So that's why I could almost call it my superpower too. My attitude about it is just dramatically shifted, I think, in the last, 5 to 7 years. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of times our anticipation of what that conversation will be like is more traumatic than the conversation itself in some ways. I'm not saying all the time, but quite often.
No, I completely get what you're saying. It's like if you let too much time just linger there, it like overshadows that conversation, and it then becomes such a bigger entity in your mind, So yeah.
Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. Maybe you can share with us, 1, what you do, and 2, what's the value ultimately that your clients get out of working with you?
Yeah. So a little bit about what I do. I mean, I am a licensed psychotherapist. I've been in practice for more than 2 decades. And in the last 3 years, also branched out and started delivering more high ticket coaching programs as a transformation strategist, right? And that really came from my own observation that, there are a ton of people out there who are experiencing distress, from, different circumstances or one aspect of their life. They don't qualify for a clinical diagnosis necessarily, but they certainly, need the intervention or the strategy around navigating whatever it is that they're going through. Right. So that was really the catalyst to get me going and to start developing, a program, the transformation methodology to serve, my audience. So, what they get from it. So here's the thing. I mean, it's filled with mindset transformation. So you're going to feel, more confident. You're going to be more in tune with, your abilities and your level of competency and all of that. But really the thing that I think we undervalue, that at the end everyone is saying, oh my gosh, this is really the thing, is
Mhm.
peace of mind.
Peace of
Um,
mind.
yeah, I mean, because the whole program that, or one major pillar of the transformation methodology, is about shifting my clients' focus away from all of those external cues, all of those
Mhm.
external pressures, and shifting them back to self. Uh,
Mhm.
so, and I could go on and on and on about this, but I'm sure you've got more questions, so I don't want
No,
to.
I love what you said about the value ultimately is the peace of mind that people get. And I think that's a case with in many different, say, aspects of I don't know if you call yourself a coach in part, but when people are working with, say, life coaches and whatever, sometimes it's really about peace of mind. Sometimes it's also about removing the hurdles that are getting in your way. But I think that that's a really good thing in terms of value to be able to bring people these days, anytime, actually.
Right. Because there's always that
Mhm.
inner conflict,
Right.
right? It's like, I think I want this, I think I desire this, I think I need this in my life, whatever this is. But
Right.
then why won't you give yourself permission to receive those things or to
Mhm.
go after those things? And that's where it's the external
Right.
focus really, really gets in the way.
Right. 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 Cool. Excellent. So I'm sure we'll come back to that as we
Yeah.
go through our discussion today, but I'd like to rewind, rewind to when you first started your business. And I'm curious what led you to start your business and what happened when you first had to set some prices for that.
Yeah. So, oh, the pricing story is hysterical, but um so I knew that I wanted to offer some type of step-by-step process. I knew I wanted to create some type of simple, yet strategic, methodology. I didn't
Mhm.
have the term methodology at the time, but that's what I wanted to create for my clients. Um, so that in the end they would have sustainable change.
Mhm.
So I set out to, and I designed some very, um, pre, what is that word? When it's like, very unsophisticated,
That's
coaching,
simple.
programs in the
Mhm.
beginning, right? Because hindsight's 2020, but at the time I thought they were, pretty dang good.
Yeah.
And I remember I was working with a coach, and she told me, okay, when you're in that sales conversation, when you're wrapping it up, you're going to say, okay, and how would you like to pay for that? Would you like to put that on a Visa, MasterCard, or Discover? And I'm looking at my coach like a deer in headlights, and I'm like, you want me to say what? Like the whole
Right.
pricing piece, the whole asking for someone to
Mhm.
pay for what it was I created was so intimidating to me. And so then I called one of my gal pals who's also an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, and I was telling her about the coaching session. And she's like, let me guess. Did she say like what do you want? How do you want to pay for this? Do you want to put it on a Visa, MasterCard, or
Mhm.
Discover? And I'm like, yeah, how did you know that? She's like, that's how I close every single one of my calls. Like I'm asking them, okay, we've just discussed this thing. You know you want it. And so how would you like to pay for it?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness.
So Heidi, why do you think that you felt that way or you had that reaction?
Yeah, I think it felt so forward for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
It felt, very presumptive or something.
Mhm.
I was completely underestimating the entire conversation I had leading the client up to that point, where
Mhm.
I'm then just finalizing the fact that we're going to initiate this transaction. You want what I have, I want to give it to you, but there's this exchange of money that happens. And it just, I made that bigger in my head. It's an
Mhm.
exchange of money, it's a transaction. At the time it felt like so much more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's quite common for many people when they're starting out.
Yeah.
It's something that they have to come to terms with. I maybe is the best way to put it. How did you deal with it then?
What it taught me was we all have money stories.
Mhm.
We all have stories about money, about how, what justifies, how we price things out.
Mhm.
We all have stories about money and our self-worth. I know a big one for me was that, I felt like I had to work hard to
Mhm.
demonstrate that I was then, I guess, worthy of receiving that money, or that my service was worthy of that money.
Yeah.
Right. But there was a big piece of needing to work hard and
Mhm.
prove. It's like, well, here are all the things I've done.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it was so hard if people ever challenged, like, well, but it doesn't have this, or, but you're not really talking about this. And it was like, but look at everything that that I have done. Look at everything that you are getting. Look at, yeah. So I had to really unlock that
Mhm.
and rewrite that story.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you start when you first started, before you did this program, you were a therapist, and were those prices, are they, I know in some countries they're set by the health insurance companies, and so people don't really have to get into this task or this activity around setting a price themselves. They just take from what the health insurance companies tell them they can charge. Is that similar for you, or was it a little bit different?
Comparing the clinical payment process to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we all have a out-of-pocket, price point that we
Mhm.
assign, and so, I think early on in my clinical practice, it was the same thing. It was very
Yeah.
much I was using those external cues and markers to then dictate my pricing, where it was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, well, everybody in my network is, assigning this price point, so I should probably be there too, because I don't
Mhm.
wanna stand out." And I had a coach say to me, she said, but I want you to think about some of the feedback you get from your clients, and are you providing them the same level of service, the same quality of service as the other people in their network? And I had literally just finished with one of my favorite clients who kept telling me, I mean, we only worked together for 3 months. She kept saying, I have gotten more from you in 3 months than I spent a year and a half with another therapist. And I mean, I was in no
Mhm.
better of a place. And so it was
Right.
like the timing of that feedback, along
Mhm.
with this experience I just had, um,
Mhm.
and her progress was marked. I felt like, yeah, that's a really important piece here, because I know when I need help, time is very important to me. And if someone can get
Mm.
me to results faster than
Yeah.
someone else, I have no problem paying a little bit more, because
Mhm.
ultimately, time is also it equates to money in some respects, right?
Right. Right.
And never mind the relief that you're looking for from whatever the problem or circumstance is that you're going
Mhm.
through. So it was a huge aha.
Right. So
Yeah.
we also, I like to mention this since it was brought up. We do have to be careful if we use time-based pricing, because as you become more efficient in what you do, if you're using strictly time-based pricing, then you would charge less, but they're getting more value out of it. So that's something to, for people who are listening or watching us, to be aware of as
I
well.
mean, absolutely. So when people come to work
Mhm.
with me, it's I have to be very clear that they're working with someone with 2 decades worth of experience here,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm a trained observer of human behavior, right? And that's why I'm so good as a transformation strategist as well. There are so many transferable skills. You have to look at everything that you're bringing to the table,
Mhm.
um, you know, all of that experience, all of that brilliance that you've collected along the way. So
Mhm.
it can never be an hourly exchange.
Right.
There's so much time for this dollar amount. It's really the experience that you're offering your
Mhm.
client. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's a
could
very good point. So how did you go about changing your perspective or changing your mindset? Assuming that's what you did. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question here. So what did you start doing differently is maybe a better question to ask.
with regard to pricing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So even still to this day, because, where I was even 6 months ago is at a very different place in terms of price point. And I encourage all of your listeners to always be reevaluating that,
Mhm. Mhm.
because you're only adding more expertise
Mhm.
every time you go and offer another program or service.
Absolutely.
But I am every morning I address my money stories.
Mhm.
That is one of the things I do. I've got affirmations
Mhm.
that I write out. I write them, I read them, I say them. Sometimes I even put little post-it notes around my computer. I also rewrite a money story though.
I'll,
But I have
I'll,
to tell
I'll show
you,
you mine.
yeah,
I'm the best
the
person for
best
this.
person. Yes, we all have these
Yeah,
post-its, right?
yeah,
Um, So the other thing is, as I rewrite this
yeah.
story, it's like 3 or 4 sentences, right? But one of the
Mhm.
sentences, that I took from a book that I read, it's I think it's The Power of the Subconscious Mind or something like
Okay.
that.
Mhm.
Um, it was this line that said, "It is my right to be rich, happy, and successful." Now, let me tell you, when I first started writing that line, this is like years ago now, right?
Mhm.
When I read the line, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I don't think I can say that, right? It is
Mhm.
my right. Like it felt so self righteous, you know.
Right.
Um, yes, it is my right to be happy. Yes,
Mhm.
it is my right to be successful. But rich felt like I don't know. There was a story
Interesting.
at the
Yeah.
time. Now I affirm that every single day. And I say this to my clients. I'm like,
Mhm.
can you say this? Can you rattle this off and really be in a place of confidence as you say this? If not, there's something there. And if
Mhm.
you don't address the block, you're going to sabotage your opportunity to be at that income level that you want
Right.
to be at.
Right.
So, I always say you got to step into the fear to feel the magic, right?
Mhm. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so, that is how I continue to cultivate that.
Mhm. Mhm. And what has been sort of what are the results from working on that and starting to shift that? What is I mean, there's concrete results, and then there's also or no, what's and I don't want to say concrete. I want to say there's tangible and intangible results. I'm curious, what shifted for you?
I think it really is, my mindset around money,
Mhm.
um, and that's what I think you're asking, right? Is
Well,
specifically
I'm curious,
around my
what
money.
does having shifted your mindset? Does it physically feel different? Do
It
you approach
does.
tasks differently? The results, that it's, what really is the difference in the end for you?
I think so here we are, right? I mean, look at our economy in the United States. Like there's a lot going on. There's, inflation. People are very concerned about, stock market and investment accounts and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, and there is an inner calm within me. I don't know how else to describe this. It's like we're gonna get through this. Whatever it is, we're gonna be okay. We've never not been okay. I'm
Right.
not gonna stress that all of a sudden now we're not gonna be okay for some reason. I don't have any type of scarcity mindset. I know
Mhm.
when there are times when family members will say things and I'm like, I'm not going there. I mean, I literally say that. I go, I'm not going there. I'm not even entertaining that
Right.
as a possibility because all that does is it creates overwhelm, it creates anxiety, it
Yeah.
creates stress, it makes you move to a far end of a spectrum in terms of like overextending yourself
Mhm.
and I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to
Right.
get on that roller coaster. So it's
Mhm.
being really clear of those like emotional boundaries
Mhm.
as well, because that's self-sabotaging behavior.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I also think I, I s- I really just look at money as like there's always the opportunity to earn more money.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, it's not that I don't value money. I very much do, and I am very frugal and mindful about how I
Mhm.
spend my money.
Mhm.
But that's not coming from a place of scarcity. That's
Right.
coming from a place of being smart. Um,
Mhm.
and and so there's also just this idea of there's always the opportunity to make more money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. I think the mindset around, or all I can think of is the German word, sorry, the hurdles around, money and mindset, or success and worthiness, and your mindset, and their link to pricing is extremely strong.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's always interesting to see how different people approach, confronting that, if you will, and shifting those things for themselves and what they get out of it. And I think you're right. It often brings people a much more ease, whereas they may have fought with or procrastinated against, or doing things in that area. Now they're like, okay, I need to do it. I just do it, and it's not like this big thing anymore. And I think that that's an aspect that makes life easier for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, it's really easy as an entrepreneur to be focused on, income goals. Uh,
Hmm.
and that is important. We all, I think most people do have an income goal, but if you're just focused on the equation, all right, how many clients at what price point is going to get me to this amount,
Hmm.
right? It's like you can get fixated on that, and then you're just worried about getting the client, getting the client, getting the client. For me, I try to move away from that as well
Hmm.
and really focus on what are the things that I know I need to be doing to
Hmm.
guarantee the access to the clients, and then that's just going to happen. Like the rest of that equation is just going to happen. So for me, it's like, how am I branding myself? How am I drawing
Hmm.
visibility to my business? How am I conducting conversations? I mean, collaborative conversations with
Hmm.
people, knowing that all of my professional contacts are also my referral sources. You
Hmm.
know, really looking at where I have a greater sense of control.
Hmm.
I can't make a buying decision for a potential client unless
Right.
I remove the opportunity for them to buy. That's the
Right.
only way I can control that.
Hmm.
So, but doing all of these other things is naturally going to yield more clients, yeah,
Right.
in my
Right.
direction. So,
Right. Right.
yeah,
I mean, because those are the activities that are, generating buzz, if you will,
yeah,
and putting people front and center to hear, what Heidi has to bring to the world, and how you can help them with whatever it is they're seeking,
yeah,
to, transform, or get help with.
yeah.
Cool. So we're going to start wrapping this up. I have a few wrap up questions. And the first one is, if you think about, the topic that we're talking about today and our conversation, what's one thing you'd like people to take away from our discussion today?
Hmm. Um, One thing I'd like people to take away is that really, I don't think, with regard to pricing and sales calls and things like that, I don't think that you're ever 100% ready to do it, but you're going to learn so much by doing, rather than thinking I have to keep listening to, podcasts, or I need to go through this additional course after you've already done probably a half a dozen, right? Now you got to go and do it. And
Yes.
hopefully they're working with someone who's saying that, let's go and do it right now. I know I've done that with clients live. Like, come on,
Mhm.
let's do a sales call right where I'm right here with you, and I'm going to
Mhm.
process this with you, and we're going to go through it. And literally after they've gone through that process, they're like, thank you for making me do
Yeah.
that. I just needed to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we learn by
Just do
doing.
it. Be like Nike. Just do it, right?
We're genius with that slogan. They're genius. Just do it.
Just do it. Sometimes that is the best answer. And as scary as it feels, that is the best way to, work through whatever it is you are feeling about it, is to just try it. And if you mess it up, then you have the opportunity to try it again. That's the
Exactly.
key, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Heidi, what's the best business advice that you've been given over the years?
The best business advice.
Mhm.
Hmm. When you put best in there. Um, I think the best business advice that I've been given is to operate from a place of 70% of perfection is success.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of goes along with just do it, but it's like,
Yeah.
really, there's never going to be anything that you feel went perfectly. Um,
Hmm.
I started onboarding a new team member last night, and we were talking about this exact topic, that even
Hmm.
something that I approved from 2 months ago, I thought, oh yes, this workbook module looks beautiful, right? And I just happened to go back and look at it recently. I'm like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking here? Like, I don't like the flow of this at all. But like at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect, right? And so you're never going to like be done with something. Everything is
Mhm.
always in a state of revision,
Yeah. Yeah.
including ourselves, right?
Yes.
Like not revision,
Yes.
but growth. We're
Yeah.
always developing and growing.
Yeah.
So just be good with good and
Hmm.
stay in.
And
Yeah.
mm, yeah, yeah, that's great. I know I suffer from that from time to time. I can look at something 1,000 times and still find something to fix on it.
Always. And it's always, what was I thinking? Like, I don't know.
I was recently with my family in the States, and I was helping my parents move, and I went through thousands, tens of thousands of photos to help my mom weed things out. And then, of course, then you look at what you wore in 1988 and you're like, what was I thinking?
Well, oh my gosh, Ginny, you say, what was I thinking? Or you're like, why didn't I keep that? It would totally be in style right now, right?
Or why didn't somebody tell me?
So
Cool. Do you have a favorite book or tool you'd like to share with us today?
So listen, I'm fascinated by habit formation, and that's part of how I developed the transformation methodology, is because I literally like study habit formation. And there's a ton of books out there, and there are a ton of wonderful ones. But an oldie that really it doesn't get old for me is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Okay.
It really is good. I mean, so you've got the High Five Habit recently came out, and Atomic Habits came out, and
Mhm.
even Ed Milet's most recent book. If you haven't read it, I'm almost done with it. The Power of One. It is also a little bit about habit formation, but
Mhm.
Jeff Olson just had a way for me of really simplifying the
Mhm.
process. And,
Okay.
and that's what I feel like that most people benefit from is
Right.
simplification, right? Make
Mhm.
it easy to do, and you're more likely to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I love that. Excellent. All right. One last question. So, if people would like to reach out and find out more about what you do and how to work with you, where should they go?
Yeah, so I made it really easy. Just go by my name, Heidi Gruss. You can find me on all the social handles. It's also my website,
Mhm.
HeidiGruss.com. It rhymes with Seuss, but it's spelt a little differently. So it's Gruss.
Uh-huh.
Um, and when people visit the website, actually, you should go back and revisit about 10 days from now, because we are launching some new pages, including a new media page and a new vault with some new gifts and freebies.
Okay.
So,
Super. Excellent. We'll have to check that out, everyone. We'll put the links, not just to her website, but other links, as well as she has a um, uh,
yeah, I have a
opt-in.
for addressing
Yes,
eliminating burnout, right? So
yes,
one of the things we try to do in the transformation methodology is we eliminate that crash and burn cycle, right?
right.
So there's a short 10-minute video jam packed with some
Okay.
strategies for your listeners. So hope.
Super. We'll put that in the show notes as well as the links to the books, everyone. So you'll have it all there. Heidi, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, great. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching or listening, depending on if you're here with us live or you're going to listen to the show later. I wanted to also let you know that I have a web class coming up on July 12th and 13th. And we're going to be talking about pricing know how for startups and taking a look at the 10 pricing mistakes that startups tend to make and how it affects their business. Of course, we'll also take a look at what you can do to avoid them. So head on over to thepricinglady.com/webclass and you can grab a seat there. That's all for us today, folks. I wish you all the best. Have a great day. And as always, everyone, enjoy pricing.